200年前，麦吉尔是加拿大蒙特利尔一位商人的名字。今天，它是一所备受青睐的加拿大名校。白求恩大夫在这里开始他的医学生涯。多年来，医学研究是他的传统强项，癌症研究、免疫学和基因学都走在世界的最前沿。大物理学家卢瑟福在这里发现了原子的结构，他与索迪和菲奇为这里的物理研究立下汗马功劳。建校180多年以来，从这里走出了6位诺贝尔奖获得者，以及众多伟大的思想家。这些非凡的成就，使得他在全世界赫赫有名。
加拿大，一个伴随枫叶走入你视线的国度，宁静而安详，富饶且美丽。有不少中国人认识加拿大，是从国际共产主义战士白求恩开始的。在白求恩的第二故乡蒙特利尔，耸立着白求恩的塑像。他的神态与在中国见到的一样，目光深邃，表情庄重。也许在1个多世纪以前，这里的人们并不知道一个叫亨利·诺尔曼·白求恩的男孩，日后会成为教育了几代中国人的英雄和楷模，一位来自蒙特利尔的世纪名人。白求恩同志以医疗为职业，医术精湛。可能很多人都不太清楚，这位在中国家喻户晓的大夫，是在加拿大麦吉尔大学的一个教学医院里开始他的医学生涯的。时光飞逝，如今的麦吉尔大学医学院在加拿大已是首屈一指。
The Faculty of Medicine was established internationally through the renown of Sir William Osler. Sir William Osler was here in the late 1800s and established a vision of applying science to medicine. He then went to Johns Hopkins University and established the same vision, and as a consequence of that, Johns Hopkins University became the premier university and the premier faculty of medicine in the United States, just as Mcgill was when Sir William Osler was here. After that, he went to the University of Oxford in England and set up again exactly the same vision. So now you have these 3 renowned institutions whose faculties of medicine are a consequence of the vision of Sir William Osler, who started off here at Mcgill.
200年前，麦吉尔是加拿大蒙特利尔市一位有眼光的成功商人的名字，他同时还是当地著名的慈善家。1813年，麦吉尔去世的时候立下遗嘱，将自己的农场和1万英镑馈赠给皇家机构，用以创办一所学院。1821年，英王乔治4世颁布了一项皇家特许令，以麦吉尔为名建立了一所学院。1829年，蒙特利尔总医院的教学部并入麦吉尔学院，学校更名为麦吉尔大学。如今，麦吉尔是一所备受青睐的加拿大名校的名字。建校180多年以来，麦吉尔大学培育了6名诺贝尔奖获得者以及众多伟大的思想家。这些非凡的成就使得他在加拿大赫赫有名。
It's now close to being 200 years old, as I suppose you've been told, and it is one of great tradition. It was founded by a bequest made by James Mcgill, who was a significant, business person in Montreal. And soon a number of faculties were created. In particular, the Faculty of Medicine was one of the first faculties of this university. And it brought people in a unique and collegial fashion, people that were really dedicated to research and to higher education from the very beginning. And so with that work, a great tradition developed that is persisting.
加拿大的第二大城市蒙特利尔坐落于渥太华河和圣劳伦斯河交汇处，是加拿大的金融和工商业中心，同时还是仅次于巴黎的第二大法语城市。1967年的世界博览会和1976年的奥运会，使得蒙特利尔迅速崛起，成为颇具魅力的现代化大都会。英法文化的交叉，使得蒙特利尔处在多元文化的十字路口。麦吉尔大学正是在这种大环境下应运而生的。
There was a lot of very good chemistry coming out of science, very good science coming out of Mcgill, and so for somebody who's thinking of becoming a professor, it's important that the academic, scientific excellence is there. So there weren't articles about Mcgill as a it was a scientific journal article actually.
Mcgill 还有它的特色，它的优点，因为它特别在科学方面，在医学方面都非常有优秀的老师，也有最先进的预备室设备什么都很先进。
This here is the experiment that Hans Selye did in the 1930s, okay, where he showed what happens with stress. So with stress, these hormones here, which are in the middle, they now are made. And so as a consequence of stress, you now become stressed. You know what stress is, right? You're very nervous. And this is what happens. So the brain controls the hormones to make you undergo stress and to give you a stress response. And so here you can see all of the various organs of the body which are responding to stress, and in some cases, some pathology which is a consequence of some of the difficulties in what happens with these hormones that are produced as a consequence of stress. So here you see a woman over there with a lot of hair on her body, and these are all discoveries which eventually led to the Nobel Prize to Andrew Shalley, who was here at Mcgill, and to Roger Gilmet, who was a student of Hans Selye.
这里是以麦吉尔大学医学院的创建者威廉·奥斯勒爵士命名的实验室。这里的设施虽然在一年年的更新，但奥斯勒爵士传授医学的理念却被一代代的保留了下来。如今，麦吉尔大学与蒙特利尔地区7大医院建立了教学和科研挂钩关系，在癌症研究、免疫学等方面取得了非凡的成就。
Discoveries that had an influence on the entire world in medicine here at Mcgill were the discoveries of Charles Leblanc in this building here. And Charles Leblanc discovered stem cells. So do you all know what stem cells are? Stem cells are when you have a cell in your body that can create blood cells, can create muscle, can create nerve, and it could go on to make itself as another stem cell. And so the hope now for treating cancer and many, many diseases is to try to use the power of stem cells. The concept of stem cells, the proof that stem cells were real, was here in this building, and it was a discovery of Charles Leblanc.
麦吉尔大学医学院拥有13个附属教学医院，是医学院师生的教学中心。这里的学术研究氛围很自由，每当有才华的年轻人来到这里，医学院就会想尽办法帮助他们独当一面。这里也是有志于医学研究的学子梦寐以求的。正因为如此，麦吉尔大学医学院能一直吸引到世界各地的人才，并坚定地走在医学研究的最前沿。汤姆·哈德逊教授就是这方面的优秀代表。作为麦吉尔大学基因组发明创新中心的主任，他在世界各地采集人类的 DNA 样本，然后进行基因组排序，利用人体内的信息来研究人类的疾病。 汤姆·哈德逊教授的基因研究计划目前进展十分顺利，他希望自己的研究成果能够给人类带来福音。
In the last few years, the emphasis is on how do we use genome information, all the sets of human genes, to understand human disease. Mcgill actually built one of the first, I call a medical genomics center, is application of genome information to understand human disease. The center here actually grew from small, slowly since '96, and actually became a large genome center only this year in 2003. We have some big core technologies to study patients which have multiple sclerosis, asthma, diabetes, and cancer. We use a number of technologies to actually go and try to find what it is that's different with people with disease, without disease, and so on. We also have this new genomics actually is also bringing in a lot of international collaborations. We're still doing some very big projects.
麦吉尔大学各个学科之间互动性很强，而且目光不只停留在学校本身，它吸引了很多其他学校的师生前来进行学术交流。麦吉尔大学的生物学研究就是这种环境的受益者之一。大学先进的地理学和地质学研究，以及设施完善的博物馆，都为生物学研究提供了强有力的支持。
This is the Redpath Museum of Mcgill University. It's an historic building. It was the first building constructed as a museum in Canada, and it still remains as the University Museum of McGill. It was first built to house the collections of a famous geologist, Sir William Dawson, and we still have those collections in our storage areas in the basement, but of course they've been added to enormously since. So it's functioned as a university museum, as a place for research and teaching for over 100 years now. William Dawson was the greatest Canadian geologist of the 19th century and one of the world leaders in geology at the time. He was responsible for discovering many of the most important fossils that have been found in this part of North America. Like many other Canadian academics, he was offered a job in the United States at Princeton, but then the museum was built for him to persuade him to remain at McGill, and indeed he stayed on at McGill not only as director of the museum, but as principal of the university, and remained as such for another 20 years.
麦吉尔大学对人才的重视由来已久，置身于此，你会发现它与所处的城市一脉相承，你中有我，我中有你。走遍麦吉尔大学的每一个角落，你能体验到学习与生活的另一种形式，两者亲密无间，水乳交融。这里的学生又是幸运的，各种各样的学术运动团体让他们尽情感受校园生活的无穷吸引力。
What impresses me most is the caliber of the education at McGill. It's actually very good. The courses are very good. The research is excellent. It's a lot of fun. Lots of interesting stuff going on, not just with my project alone, but everybody else in the group has a lot of interesting work.
Being at Mcgill University is certainly a good place to decide that. We have exposure to both academia and industry, so that helps make our decision easier. At the moment, I'm very interested in academia just because of the promises that it gives in terms of flexibility and creativity and etc.
我觉得McGill大学给我最重要的一个帮助是说，它提供了一个很完善的环境，让我能在我做博士期间能够有条件去做我想要做的实验。这是对于研究生来讲，这是一个最重要的一个条件。
McGill 大学让我感觉非常自由，作为一个学生，它让你自己去寻找新的东西。
在加拿大所有大学来讲，我们这个大学是最有国际性的，就是说很多事情都是有这个比较大的一个眼光比如说请教授收学生都基本上就是说向全世界开的，就是要求是最好的人才来这里。
在美国大学我的感觉它的就是外国学生的比例是非常高的，这个就是把全世界各种不同的流派就融合在一起。那么，所以它还是继续能保持在加拿大这个就是所谓的就是王牌学校之一的这种地位吧。到目前为止，还是号称每个也是说是加拿大的哈佛的这种一个地位。
麦吉尔大学是加拿大名列前茅的大学，由于它地处蒙特利尔英语区的中心，不但拥有大量的国际学生，世界上的很多知名学者也慕名而来。当年大物理学家、诺贝尔奖获得者卢瑟福便是在麦吉尔大学发现了原子的结构。同期与卢瑟福齐名的大学者还有诺贝尔奖获得者索迪和菲奇。从1902年开始，卢瑟福在化学家弗雷德里克·索迪教授的帮助下，对原子结构进行了研究，因发现原子衰变现象，于1908年获得诺贝尔化学奖。而索迪则因对放射性物质及同位素的研究，于1921年荣获诺贝尔化学奖。他们当时使用过的一些简单手工设备和卢瑟福的一些个人通信，现在仍保留在物理科学系和工程图书馆。瓦尔菲奇1943年毕业于麦吉尔大学，他与美国物理学家詹姆士·克罗林合作研究，因发现中性 K 介子蜕变基本守恒定律的破坏，两人共同获得了1980年的诺贝尔物理学奖。如此众多的非凡成就，使得麦吉尔大学的物理学研究在欧美名声大噪。
My research group investigates nanoscience phenomena, so the science of very, very small things. And some of these small structures have properties which are very, very different than when the systems are large. For example, molecules can have very interesting electronic conduction properties. So we aim to understand their conductivity and maybe replace silicon microelectronics one of these days with molecular electronics. Some of our instrumentation, like the instruments you see in the background or other instruments in our lab, are cutting edge. That means we can compete with anybody in the world. We are interested in some particular aspects of how to actually make a contact wire to these molecules, and so there we're pretty much at the leading edge worldwide.
这里是麦吉尔大学法学院的图书馆，只要你翻阅过这里的书籍，你就能够明白法学院为什么会与众不同。在北美同时存在着两种法律体系，一种是大陆法，一种是普通法。麦吉尔大学法学院集这两种法律体系于一身，在北美地区独树一帜。
Mcgill is probably the only university in North America where comparative law, that is to say, two or more systems of law taught in dialogue or in encounter, is at the center of the intellectual project.
My areas of interest are property law, common law property law, and intellectual property law. My areas of research are biotechnology and patenting, especially relationships between the developed countries and less developed countries.
I am quite a newcomer to this faculty since I've been teaching in another law school for 20 years before joining this faculty. And my only reason to do that, to move from my previous university to that one, is that I was absolutely fascinated and very pleased with the new orientation that was given to the teaching of basic law courses for the first time.
多种教学方法并行不悖，给了学生全方位的知识体系。除此之外，法学院还定期邀请校外的客座教授前来传授知识，丰富了学生的思维和想象力。对此，航空和空间法专业的师生感受最深。
这是我们的研究所，也翻成研究院，航空和空间法研究院。这在过去几十年来是全世界唯一的培养航空法学专家的这样一个机构，吸收了大概是120个国家的学生。他的教授也具有国际性，有罗马尼亚的，有法国的，有美国的，有印度的，有德国的。所以是一个国际性很强的一个学校。
In some ways, I do try to take inspiration from the professors who taught me, many of whom are now my colleagues. I try to get them to think about law in a much deeper way than a statute or a legal rule presents on its face. This law faculty, I think, prides itself in getting students to think as much about what is behind the law.
知识无国界，友谊无国界，这是麦吉尔大学国际特色的集中体现。无论你来自哪里，都能够找到与自己兴趣相投的伙伴。这里的国际学生人数名列加拿大各大学之首，他们来自143个国家和地区，占学生总数的19%。而学校的最新计划是将这一数字扩展到25%，亚洲将是其海外招生的重点地区。
This is an office where students would come to get assistance with immigration issues, financial assistance, or health insurance information. And we have nearly 5,000 international students on this campus who all need to come to this office to get health insurance. And at times their visa expire and they need to know about the procedures to renew them. Or they want to invite a family member to visit them while they're here, or they're near completion of their degree and they want to invite their spouse or their parents to come to convocation. So we have 2 counselors here. We help them with immigration questions, and we redirect them to other services that we don't necessarily have here. When students arrive here, they're all excited. Everything is smooth. The first couple of weeks, Montreal is exciting. New students everywhere. But when the falls, when the leaves will start to fall and it starts to get gray and wet, students start to get homesick, and often they come here for help and look for other students too. We work a lot also with a volunteer club called the Mcgill International Student Network, and very often we direct students to social activities through this service.
麦吉尔大学是加拿大第一家提供商业课程的大学，它的管理学院是加拿大最负盛名的管理教育机构之一。在金融时代世界管理学院的排名中，麦吉尔大学的 MBA 的国际化程度排名第一。
Mcgill MBA program has a number of competitive advantages. First and foremost is that we're very, very international. That means international students and international faculty. In the Financial Times ratings, we're one of the top 10 in the world for international mobility of our graduates. That means our graduates come here, and then after graduation they move around the world. So you come to Montreal, which is a bilingual, bicultural city, have an international experience in the city as well as in the program with over 50% international students. And then because of the McGill name and your experience here, you have the opportunity to work in many places in the world.
One of the things that has caused it to be a leading international management school has been its international involvement. So going back to the 1980s, we were very much involved in a multi-university project for training academics and practitioners in China. So we helped schools set up their PhD programs. This was a very big project that ran for many years. We had many students from China coming here who later earned their PhDs either here or back in China. We've maintained good links with a number of the leading universities in China through individuals and through these projects.
我们跟加拿大学的这个合作合作交流开展很多，其中一个重要的内容就是推动加拿大一些重点大学开展汉语言文化这个教育的交流。你比如说在麦吉尔大学、蒙特利尔大学等，我们都有这个都有汉语本科生，和这个汉学研究的这个教学，他们这搞得还是很不错的。那么中国大使馆和这个教育部和中国大使馆每年都要向他们赠送一批书籍。我到他们图书馆去参观过，他们都是这个发挥了这个很好的作用。
建校180年来，麦吉尔大学一直是蒙特利尔的骄傲，因为它孕育了加拿大最伟大的思想家和科学家。同样，蒙特利尔也是一座令人痴迷的国际大都会。麦吉尔大学在他的怀抱中更显生机与活力。你可以在这里全身心地享受生活，轻松地接受新信息、新观念， 收获多年以来在心中播下的希望。
What I would like to maybe add is that McGill is certainly, of the Canadian universities, the one with the most international vocation. And this takes many guises. It's very international in its student body, in its professor, in the research collaboration it has with various countries and various colleagues around the world. It's international in the slant it gives to its programs. So in this respect, we are really looking to collaborations with Chinese universities. We do have a lot at present, and we're always eager to strengthen, in particular, student exchanges. We'd like very much to send some of our students to Chinese university for they also to benefit from your great institutions.
百种文化交融，百段人生感悟，百个青春故事，百年偶心树人。敬请收看百集电视系列片《世界著名大学》。